you'll never beat time. And the only way to beat time or to attempt to beat time is to do things, to do stuff, try stuff, fail, avoid catastrophe, take maximum risk, live the life. I had, friends and family, that was anything you say, they just say, yeah, no, it's fine, but no one really understood what it was like to sit in my seat. And not complaining, but just showing that entrepreneurship is the loneliest run of all time. My story always ended with me being able to take care of my family, and then me being able to provide a platform for other people to either do whatever it is they want to do, but to become the best version of themselves.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the 1% Podcast. As always, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for showing support, and thank you guys for showing love on every single episode. I have a guest with me today, Aaron Spivak, co-founder of Hush. Was co-founders, ended up selling the company. Co-founder of Revitasize, appeared on Canadian hit TV show Dragon's Den, and now you're working on the Founders Club. Aaron, thank you. It really does mean a lot.
Dude, thank you for having me.
How you feeling today? How's everything?
In New York, so energy's unlimited, and I love it here. So happy to be here today. It's been a crazy day, but I'm happy to be doing this with you.
Thank you. I kind of wanted to start off, to know and understand a man, we have to know a little bit of his backstory and how that really shaped who he became. And I noticed that, with your childhood, it was a little different. And it kind of forced you into who you became, and you've created so many great things. So I kind of want to know, if I was a fly on the wall and I looked at your childhood, what would I have seen growing up?
I mean, I come from a immigrant family. My three brothers were born in Israel. My parents immigrated in their late 20s, with a couple of bucks in their pocket. My dad drove a truck 25 years. My mom drove the school buses, cleaned homes, did whatever possible. My younger brother and I, so I'm one of five boys, were born in Canada. So really just got to witness just pure grind and trying to figure things out. And, for better or for worse, I grew up, always kind of feeling guilty about needing money from my parents, because I got to see how hard they worked for it. So, I was that lemonade stand kid growing up. I was garage selling sometimes my brother's bikes, they'd be like, what are you doing? I'm like, I needed the money, they'd be pissed. And, it spun into so many different things. And I would say my first real at bat was probably in grade 8, grade 9, when I saw an opportunity to facilitate all the party buses in Toronto. And that was literally just born out of my grade 8 prom. We're all at the pre-prom and we're waiting for the bus, and the bus didn't show. And we're all like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And it all turned out that the girl that was supposed to organize it, rightfully so, her dad's like, I'm not putting down my credit card on a deposit for 50 kids to party on a bus. And I realized in that moment, I'm like, every single person who goes to prom has the same issue. It's annoying to collect money from people. It's annoying to set it up. You got to deal with these weird companies, and no dad wants to put down the liability. And I was like, wait a second, I can facilitate. I can set up a link where people go and buy their ticket. It was the easiest thing ever. And then on top of that, I realized that every principal has this massive fear. And the fear was that kids would show up to the prom drunk. All these underage kids just drunk at a prom. It's a huge liability for the school. So I was like, what if I can prevent the kids from drinking on the bus? I would check their bags. And I went to principal one, and I was like, she's like, if you can do that, I will recommend you to the prom committee. And I was like, damn. And within a few years, I did 75% of the proms in Toronto. It got so big where I was actually getting death threats from competitor companies. And my dad's like, you got to shut this down. But that was my first real taste of wow, I can have an idea, solve a problem, and it works. People gravitate towards the problem solves. And that ended up spinning into, a juice business at 18, and, just flowing from one business to the next. But I would say, if you were a fly on the wall, it would look probably crazy. Looking back, you'd be like, this guy's nuts.
In terms of Revitasize, I know that there was a lot of struggle. After doing some research, I realized and saw that there seemed to be a bit of struggle as you were trying to build that business. You had to create juices in your home, and you had to, kind of make a way in order to really upstart this business. And the one-day cash flow, that when you first opened it up, you had to
yeah.
just kind of, that's what you banked on. What during that time, like how did that experience of creating Revitasize, did you grow closer with your family during that time?
Yeah, I mean, it was an insane time. It's like, my family was going through so much internally. My dad suffered a stroke. My mom, wasn't really working at the time. We had a tremendous amount of bills to pay. All my older brothers who are in their late 20s, early 30s, who were living out from the house, had corporate jobs, quit their jobs, all moved back into the family home. And then we had this juice business that was literally started out of my basement with a cash register at the door, become the thing, the only opportunity that could potentially save us and really give us a crack at, keeping the home and maintaining this lifestyle, which wasn't a huge lifestyle, but with no income, there's no lifestyle. And before you know it, within a year, we're opening up our first store. None of us have ever worked in a restaurant. None of us have ever worked at a Subway. And we had zero experience. And I'll never forget, figuring out how to learn and use this $100,000 machine to create juices the night before opening. And I'll remember when we opened and customers would come and be like, and we were so grateful. We had a lineup and customers came and they went to go buy and they pull out their credit card. And I was like, we don't have a credit card machine. Like, what do you mean? Like, we completely forgot. And then we'd had a cash register because we bought that online, but there's no change in it. So like you'd pay and we'd have to like either give you more stuff or you'd have to like tip us huge because we had no change for people. And it was that inexperience. But what I tell people and they say, well, then how did it work? And on top of that, we had no cash flow. So it's like if we didn't sell out the fridge, we were screwed and we had no staff. So, my brothers, we would rotate 24-hour shifts. So we'd work the store, juice at night, sleep in the back. And then, there's 5 of us. So we would rotate in twos. And, looking back, that's a recipe for disaster. If someone were to come to you with that business plan and say, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to have no money, no register, recipes kind of like that we made in our house. And we're going to do the whole thing and we're going to test it the night before, but it's going to work. You would just say, no, like that's insane. Like, why don't you just, and the biggest factor in us surviving and eventually turning that into a success was our soul. And you walked into that store for a year, you met someone from my family. You knew whether we would tell you or not that we were there all night because we look like it. We were so passionate about what we were doing, and it truly was life or death. And people felt that, and they always feel it. They feel how much you care. They feel how important it is to you. And if it's authentic enough, not only will they resonate, but they'll come along for the ride. And we started to build a community. And that was something, looking back, that you can't just replicate. You can't just say, like, give me this step 1 through 10, plug it into GBT and apply it to your business. You truly need to incorporate and infuse whatever you're doing with your authentic soul. And it's hard to do.
Yeah. It seems like it created a no plan B mentality where if you didn't sell or you weren't focused on creating this business at large, then you weren't going to eat the next day.
Yeah, you weren't going to eat the next day. And, on the flip side is we truly believed in the end of the story. The healthiest thing at the time, this is 2012, 2013, was a Subway sub. We were educating people on what it meant to eat organic, unprocessed foods, whole foods, real smoothies that are not filled with Tropicana or weird proteins or, sugar-coated fruit from Booster Juice. We were the first person to be like, we can take real organic fruit, make you a smoothie that tastes good. At the time, people would be like, what's in it? And we would tell them that, and they'd be like, you put water? And we're like, yeah. Like, oh, it's going to taste nasty. And it's like, why? Because there's spirulina in it? Like, have you ever even had spirulina? No, but the green stuff's gross. Now green stuff's like healthy. Everyone has green stuff. This is 2013. Green is gross. And we felt like we were pioneering a wave of health, and people started to feel better. They would consume our product. They'd come back, I feel amazing. They would do a juice cleanse, or they would, incorporate a couple green juices into their diet. They start to feel good, start to sleep better. And that started to have a trickle effect. Now, health and wellness is, there's cold tubbing and juicing and smoothies, and there's so many modalities now to feel better. But at the time, this was like, wow, I can actually sleep. I can wake up and not need 12 coffees. This was breaking, and we were pioneering that for our community, at least.
Yeah. What kind of, I mean, through this time, it had to create some core beliefs within yourself. It had to kind of shape you into some, throughout those experiences. I mean, from an outsider looking in, it does sound like a little traumatic. And what I want to know is, like, what kind of core beliefs did that foster within yourself, especially at that age?
I mean, at the time, you don't know.
Yeah.
You know, for me, I know now that if I were to do any business, and I've done probably a dozen businesses since and been very fortunate to have a lot of them become successful, I've learned that if I'm not excited about it, if I can't infuse my soul and feel like I can go to war for this idea or this business, that A, I'm probably not the right guy for it, and B, I'm probably not going to win. You know, when I look back at the amount of competitors we had, you know, and later on building Hush, and I'm sure we'll get into that, but like that business at its peak had 75,000 active competitors, like actual people with inventory trying to take our market share. And when I tell people how far I went to destroy them, they think I'm a lunatic. But looking back, it's like, for me, it was not only my soul, everything I believed in, but it was a life or death situation for me. And that's the way I created it in my mind. And I so much believed in the end of the story that I knew, because I would literally go one by one, I knew that my competitors didn't have what it takes, because I would, you know, almost stalk them to the point where I was like, nah, this guy can't compete.
Yeah. It seems like you got to, especially as you see the uberly successful people, they're just wired different. They're just, you know, growing up playing sports and stuff like that better than anybody, that you need that competitive edge. And what is that competitive edge going to be? Like, are you going to stalk these companies and kind of see, well, how are they running business, or what are they doing? How is their cash flow, or how is their revenue? And, you know, what products are they not creating? And how are they trying to revolutionize their business? And you always see they're always kind of labeled as odd or weird. And was that something that you were called growing up, like odd or?
No, I mean, not really. Like, I know what you're talking about. There's like, you know, there's like savants, you know, they like don't really speak normally. They're like kind of like robots, and they like spin out $1 billion idea, you know, and like, I feel like, especially with the tech wave, a lot of those guys were just natural. But for me, like, I'm a soulpreneur. And what I mean by that is, like, when I can infuse my soul into something and I can give it enough energy, it becomes virtually unstoppable. And how do I know that? I know that because I have done it a handful of times. And B, the part that is connected to sports, for example, like, there's a lot of runners now. Running is a big thing. Everyone's running. Great. Running probably leads you to signing up for a marathon. And then you do a marathon. Now, I've done a marathon. I'm sure like you have, or you thought about it, right? And there's a point in every marathon where you want to give up, your body starts to shut down, and you enter this pain cave, this point of, I've got X amount more to run. Every step kills, but you're like, I only have 3 miles left, 5 miles left, 8 miles left, whatever that number is at that point. And then you chip away. Then you take more step, it hurts, and you're 7.9, you're eventually 4, you're like, oh, I only got 3 miles, and it's like, okay, I got 1 mile left, and you finish, and then you limp for like 4 days because it's the most painful experience. Business is very similar to that, in the sense of, you're actually always in the pain cave, and when things get good, it's an opportunity for you to get into that flow state when you're running, those endorphins, and they don't last long, but they come. And that's very true in business. And I talk about this a lot. There's seasons, very similar to the marathon. There's points throughout. And in business, there's those seasons. And sometimes you push and sometimes you pull back. But the difference is that if you know the end of your story and I don't know the end of my story, when I enter the pain cave, I don't know how many miles I got left. And I feels like it's 1,000,000 miles away. And then the stories start to come in, the doubt starts to come in, and it doesn't feel like it's going to end well for me. But you've got the Garmin watch, you've got people on the sidelines saying, hey, you only got X amount left, you can do it. and you start to feel good. You go, no, it sucks. Every step hurts. I got toenails in my shoe, but I got X amount left. I know where I'm going. I know how this story ends for me. And for me, when I go into business, my first step and the first question I ask everyone, either I invest in them or I join their board or I do the business with them, whatever capacity I do business now, the first question I ask is, how does this story end for you? How does it end? And to be honest, a lot of people just throw an answer out there, but there's a difference between throwing out an answer and sitting with it for a little bit and really thinking about how it actually ends for you. And it's a real vulnerable question. But for me, my story always ended with me being able to take care of my family, and then me being able to provide a platform for other people to either do whatever it is they want to do, but to become the best version of themselves. When I built business, I did it by myself. I sold my business. I was 25 years old. I'd never met anyone that sold their business. It was the third, fourth, fifth largest e-commerce transaction in Canadian history. I didn't know anyone that was even, I didn't know anything. I had no community, I had nobody around me. I had, friends and family. That was anything you say, they just say, yeah, no, it's fine, but no one really understood what it was like to sit in my seat. And not complaining, but just showing that entrepreneurship is the loneliest run of all time. And if you don't know where you're going and you're not deeply connected to the end of that story, the journey becomes oddly painful, to the point where odds are, statistically, not only are you not going to make it, you'll probably fail along the way. And for me, I was so clear in what the ends looks like, feels like, to the point where, I've always wanted a Lambo. I was like, 18, 19, like on Instagram and on God's, all those guys. I wanted a Lambo. It looks so cool, right? Like all the rich kids of Instagram watch. I wanted a Lambo. And I was like, you know what? Do I actually want a Lambo? I think so. So I sat with it. I closed my eyes and I pictured myself getting into a Lambo. And I kind of put the door up, and it's like, I picture it being very low. So I kind of fall into the bucket seat and no matter what, in my vision, I just couldn't get comfy in this vision for whatever reason. I don't know. Maybe I envisioned the bucket. I've never been in one. But I just no matter what, and I try to feel the leather and the stitching, and then for some reason I view that the windshield's kind of small, and this whole vision, I was like, I don't know if I'd be comfortable in a Lambo. I can't get comfortable in this fun idea. Fast forward 5 years, my buddy gets one, brings it by my house. He's like, yo, you got to take it for a spin. I'm like, I'd love to take your Lambo for a spin. Throws me the keys. I jump in the car, get in there, sit in the seat. Turn on the car, sounds great, make a right turn. First right turn, my back cracks. I was like, actually, this is kind of uncomfortable. And the second I said that out loud, I remembered that 5 years prior, I knew I wouldn't be comfortable in a Lambo. I knew it wasn't for me. And imagine we can do that within our business. When do we sit with our goals? When do we sit with what the future looks like and really hash it out internally from a feelings perspective, feeling what gets us excited and what doesn't get us excited about the future, and then work backwards from there? No one does that. And then that's why it's like sailing, saying we're going to go to the Bahamas and having no idea how to get there. And having no clue. I don't even know. Maybe we'll go to the Bahamas. Maybe we'll go to St. Martin. I don't know. So you're going to end up in the middle of the ocean. You got to have a dialed plan. I'm going to St. Martin, on the French side, and I'm going to go X amount of speed. I'm going to go 7 miles to the left, 4 miles to the right. The speeds are coming in, and you can't see it, but you know in your head how you're going to end up. And I find that lesson has carried me throughout my entire life.
Yeah. It seems like you don't just from kind of by hearing that story, it seems like you're not, somebody who would want to buy all the extravagant things or the most.
Oh, that's a good point. I did buy my dream car. I went through that whole rabbit hole and stuff like that, but more for the story, more for something I've always wanted. I went and got it, but I got the watches, I got the hat, I got all that stuff. It's nice because you set out for goals and you achieve them and you prove to yourself that you can do it. I think that part's great. I think the feelings after are fleeting. They don't stick around forever. And I'm very clear on the feelings that do stick around, and it's, you know, the things that are important and oftentimes free. You know, spending time with family, good friends, you know, those stories are always a good time. You laugh with them, you know, providing, giving back to others. I know it sounds cliche, but those things really, build a family, build a legacy, and build the culture that, you know, I want to carry forward and beyond just things.
Yeah, because I've always pondered upon that question: does money buy happiness? Because I never really came from money. Like I don't. I'm still in school, so I'm still on that school grind and trying to, you know, get a full-time job and trying to make money. So I've always wondered that question: does money really buy happiness? And that's been something that's.
I mean, it buys a lot of things. You know, it buys a lot of things, and I know a lot of not so happy rich people, and I know a lot of really happy rich people, and I think everyone has a different definition of what money is. You know, for some people, it's just being able to pay their bills and provide for their family. You know, that can be wealth. For some people, it's having $100 million, $1 billion, and I think the true level of happiness for me is being able to do what I want to do when I want to do it. You know, the other day I worked a 16-hour day, and my dad like called me. He was laughing. I was telling him, he was like, "What are you doing? Why are you working 16 hours? Like, you don't need to. It's like so stupid." And I was like, "I don't know. I'm just kind of like flowing. I kind of like it." You know, and I realized like maybe like from a money perspective, I don't need to work 16 hours days, but I love it and I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. And if I'm choosing to do this, and I feel like that's what brings me happiness. What makes me happy is being able to choose what I want to do, and whether that comes with money or not. Like I always tell people, like a super passionate teacher making 60, 100K, whatever they make, can be way happier than a banker making $500,000, $1 million. As long as one person loves what they do and they love to do the things that fill them up inside. So, you know, and there's studies around like at a certain point, money doesn't, you know, help you or whatever. But for me, it's like in my life, at least, money has enabled me to have this sense of choice, and choice to me brings me happiness. But like from the perspective of like, oh, you can fly first class or whatever, like sure, but those are fleeting things and nice to haves. But at the end of the day, it's like if you get to do what you want to do every day and do it with the people that you love, with or without money, whether that enables you to do it, you're winning.
Yeah. I kind of want to take this a little back to 2014. I read that your hockey career stopped after you interviewed with a Yale coach after a game, and the coach, you know, ended up passing on you. And there was this one quote that I thought was very interesting, and I think it led you down the path that you went, which was you ended up calling him right after the next day. And he said to you, "Your hands are stained with turmeric. Your dream employer is yourself. And you spend every morning taking care of you and your family. That is who you are. You aren't a hockey player." When you hear that statement now, and knowing in the position that you are in life right now, do you think that if you didn't take that trajectory, things would have been different?
For sure. Yeah. I think, you know, playing hockey my whole life, my dream was to go play at a Division I school and like just do that whole journey. My brother did it. It looked amazing. I wanted to do it. Played hockey for 20 years. At the time, it's like ultra devastating because, you know, 18, 19, playing hockey still full time, but working this juice shop business. Like I would wake up 6 a.m., juice shop till 2, go to practice 3:30 to 5, come back, close the store 7 o'clock. And I never thought like this juice shop thing is leading me down a path. I always thought like, we have a business here, I'm making money, it's supporting me, it's supporting my family. This is what I have to do. I never connected the two. Like in the back of my head, I truly thought I was still going to get a scholarship and go and play Division I hockey. It wasn't until that moment where I realized you can't do both. Like if I were to actually get that scholarship and go, I probably wouldn't have. I probably wouldn't have gone. I probably would have had to say, I got to choose now between kind of leaving my family behind or going off and playing hockey. And I wouldn't have chose hockey. And I think that coach at the time was, you know, some people are messengers. They come to send you messages. He was a messenger and almost a reminder, like almost like, what are you doing here? Like you might be good enough to play here, but this ain't your story. You're not a hockey player. You're a business guy. You know, your hands are stained with turmeric. Sure, you can score enough goals for us to like bring you down here and maybe entertain this, but at the end of the day, you're all in on this business. Because when other kids are waking up in the morning, probably shooting pucks and training and stretching, you're selling smoothies and juices. And when other kids are studying to improve their SAT scores so they can get more financial aid, you're selling juices. And at the time, it was kind of annoying because I blamed myself. I was like, why am I spending so much time on this thing? I'm young, I'm 19, I should go and do the college. But if you just look at my actions, I was all in on building business. And that coach was not only right, but it was awesome timing because it was a mental shift in my head. It's just like, you're right, that is who I am.
Yeah. I think especially as, I was a college athlete as well, you kind of really don't know what your purpose is after sports. And some people aren't fortunate to know, like, okay, this is the direction I want to go. We just all know. We wake up in the morning and we play our respective sports, and that's the only thing that we know. We don't have a purpose outside of that. And, especially with media nowadays, you see either basketball players or whatever it is go into maybe podcasting, or they go into kind of commentary, or they go somewhere else. And when you're so confined to that, you don't really know what the other thing is that'll bring that same excitement. And I don't know if you'd agree, but I believe business is very, very linked to sports. It's very
connected.
Yeah.
Yes. And team sports and individual sports breed two different types of individuals. And, playing team sports my whole life, I can see it show up when building teams, when, crafting leadership groups. I can see it really play out that way.
Yeah. I kind of want to go into Hush and the creation.
Let's do it.
And how that, I think, first of all, the backstory behind it was when I listened to what the backstory actually was, I thought it was hilarious. Like, you just meet somebody at a bar and
crazy times. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I was a dropout of university. I just quit hockey. I'm 22 years old. I've got 7 or 8 locations. I have no friends. All my friends are partying at school. And then I just, I'm at a bar one day and a buddy comes up to me. He's like, hey, you're kind of weird. When I dropped out of school, it was like, you had 2 options, drug dealer or like hot dog stand, right? Because like without an education, you can't do anything in this world. And, I was obviously doing something. So a couple of people thought that was cool. A couple of people thought it was like a scapegoat. Like, what are you selling juices? But you get a real job. And one of my buddies goes to me, he's like, yo, you're weird. My buddy over there is also weird. He also dropped out and has like this online business. You guys might like each other. And I literally like I got set up on a date, I went to this guy, like, what's up, dude? I heard you're weird. He's like, I heard you're weird. I'm like, you want to be weird together? Like we can just be friends, And he was fascinated by what I was doing, like 60, 70 employees, 8 locations. And I was fascinated by him. He had a business literally the same size as mine, but with 1 employee, and it was all online. And I give him a lot of credit because he kind of showed me the internet. He's always like, why don't you have an online store? You can sell like all this stuff online. And I was like, what? I thought I had to open another location. He's like, no, dude, online. And just becoming really good friends, exposing me to the internet. I realized I couldn't ship juices all over the world. It was like, no, they're not pasteurized or heavy, they're liquids. And I was like, we got to sell something online. And he came to me, he brought me a stat. After spending he was volunteering at a camp. He noticed like weighted technology and like kids using it for sensory issues. And he brought me this stat. He's like, 1 in 4 North Americans are suffering from anxiety, and even more are suffering from stress and insomnia. What if we just made a product to solve that? And I was like, well, what's the product? He's like, well, I found these weighted blankets, but they kind of suck. They're not like comfortable. They sound like a rain stick. The beads fall out. They're impossible to wash. They don't look good on your bed. They're made for kids. They're not made for adults, but adults can use a better sleep. And I was like, all right, I'll make you a deal. 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. we work on our current businesses. We go home, we shower, we work out, we do whatever we got to do. 4:30 we meet up. And we'll go from 4 to midnight every single day. We'll build this new brand, Hush. And I'll figure out the product. You figure out the website stuff. And he's like, done. And launch January 2018 with 1 sample, 1 image, couple photos we did in my condo. And we went from a 30K month, 60K month, 90K month, 120K month. And before you know it, we were looking at Ferraris on the internet. And we're like, all right, we can split it 2 days each. But it really just was a catapult of an idea, and it really took off.
Did you struggle with one of the things that upon the creation? Did you struggle with sleep? Like, was there an increase?
Yeah, I mean, but I was also like 21, 22, so you can like sleep 4 hours and feel amazing, you know. So like I wasn't sleeping much, but I didn't feel the effects. Now at 29, like if I get 2 hours less of sleep, I have like a horrible day. I can literally feel the brain fog. But yeah, I know I suffered from anxiety for sure, and using the product myself, I was like, I knew we were developing something that worked. And that's another thing. It's so much easier to pour your soul into something that's working. You know, you don't feel like you're selling snake oil. You know, we had a real product, real solution, and people loved it. And we just kept getting better and better and better. And people kept trying to copy and iterate and undercut us, but they just couldn't compete.
Yeah. How do you find a business partner? Something that came up, because obviously that's
a hard one.
That's one in a million, you know.
Yeah. How do you find
stories?
It's the same way you find a wife. Okay, minus the looks, because you probably don't care so much about the looks, you know. So put that bucket aside. But you find a business partner based on values, right? So, and we can only have so many values. You know, I'm Jewish, he's Jewish, so inherently we have a lot of very similar values. We're both very generous. Him more than me even. We are both value family, probably the same amount. We both value what it means to be honest and never lie, never steal. And we both give each other the benefit of the doubt. Those values can carry you a long way. There's going to be times where I'm hot and I'm working like crazy and he's not so much, and vice versa. There's going to be a time where he feels like he's carrying the whole company and I'm not so much. That's very similar in relationships too. And a lot of relationships don't work out. A lot of business partnerships don't work out. Leo and I are very different people, but almost like the yin to the yang. He's really good at things that I'm not so good at, and vice versa. And we had a tremendous amount of respect for each other. You know, I've probably done 100 podcasts, maybe more, maybe 200 podcasts. I've never said a bad thing about him, and he's never said a bad thing about me. I feel like that in relationships sometimes people let their mouth run about some of the people who are close in their life, whether it's intentional or not intentional. And no one's perfect. I can sit here and make a laundry list of things that are terrible, and I'm sure he can do the same about me. But those are values, and very traditional values. And no matter what, even if I was wrong, he would step up for me, and he would, you know, even if he knew I was wrong, he'd still fight and be like, Aaron's not wrong, and vice versa. And we always had each other's backs. And as you start to build a business and you go and, you know, you're very out there in the world and you have a lot of employees and all that, if the bond between you and your co-founder at any moment breaks, and you're not able to have those tough conversations, because so many of us like to avoid those tough conversations, you set yourself up for disaster. And we were just very fortunate to both bring in the same values where we didn't have to have, you know, too much bullshit.
Yeah. What do you think makes a good leader?
There's a lot of different types of leaders. A lot of leaders just like the seat because they like telling people what to do. There's a lot of leaders that think they're the best. And then there's people who embody the idea of a leader. And even if they're not the leader, like if they're not wearing the C, if they're not, you know, tagged as you are the CEO, they still embody leadership qualities. And to me, a true leader is someone that leads from the front. And sometimes there's leaders that lead from the back. They tell people, you know, you go there, you go there, you go there. And to me, that's a dictator. You know, a leader shows people and leads by example. And what does that mean? You can't work 2 hours a day and expect your people to work 10. You can't not take accountability for mistakes and then hold your people accountable for mistakes. You can't throw people under the bus and expect people not to throw you under the bus. Everything counts. Everything counts when it comes to leadership. And what people forget is not only are the people around you watching, but every single person you've ever met is crafting a story about you, and you are always on stage. You are always auditioning for your next role. And people forget that. because they're so short-sighted. Everything counts. And I'll give you a story of how everything's counted for me. When I was 19, when I was building Hush, I DJ'd. Actually, I DJ'd. We were a $20 million business. I was still DJing because we didn't want to take any money out. So every weekend, I DJ'd and paid the rent with that. And one time I was DJing a 4-year-old's birthday party. Okay? I don't even know why I took this gig. I think it was like $1,000 or something. The gig was from noon till 5 p.m. That was the deal. 5 p.m. hits. One kid, not even the birthday boy, okay? One kid still like dancing. So I'm like, whatever, I'm mixing for him. 5:30, I'm like, yo, it's gonna get tired. 6:30, 7:30. Now the parents are like kind of boozy a little bit. They're coming and dancing. I was there until midnight. I didn't stop. I pack up my stuff. No one gave me more money. No one came to me and said, yo, you DJ'd 3 times as long. Let me pay you for it. I packed up my stuff. I left. No animosity. I was like, whatever. Went on long. Had a good time. I DJ'd. I got paid. Over. 4 years go by. 5 years go by. Okay, I'm 24 now. That's when I was 19. I get an email, okay, saying, hey, you don't remember me, but my friend messaged me saying that he saw the DJ that never left. They don't even know my name. They just remember me as the DJ that never left. They probably all spoke about it. Like, yo, the guy was here all day, you know? And he saw you on Dragon's Den, which is like Shark's Tank. And he has a pitch contest in Montreal for charity that he wants to invite you to as his guest. You guys can pitch the crowd. 300 people in the crowd, you can pitch. Winner of the pitch fest gets a prize and it goes to charity. It's a whole thing. I'm like, okay. This random guy that remembered me as the DJ that never left. We go to Montreal. We do the pitch. We win best pitch. Guy in the crowd now comes up to me. He goes, dude, that was the best pitch I've ever seen. You got to meet my friend. You guys will hit it off. You guys are both in the sleep space. I'm like, yeah, here's my email. Ends up being the guy that buys my business. Back to what I said before. Do you think at 19, DJing for a kid, I knew that I was DJing for the sale of my future business? Impossible. Impossible. Everything is a stage. The way you show up, the way you talk, the way you look, the way you dress, everything is a stage and everything counts. And not only that, it's amplified 10x when you are a business leader or when you're a leader in any situation because people are paying even more attention. Most people are creating a subconscious idea of you in their head from every interaction, what they see on social, when you talk to them, when you shake their hand, everything counts, but even more when they're working for you. They're paying attention to everything. And when people see that they're on a team and their leader is like, they're like, that's my leader. You know what I mean? It creates a sense of confidence. It creates momentum. But oftentimes, leaders forget that. And that's when shit starts to fall apart. People will leave. People will talk bad about your business. They'll lie, they'll cheat, they'll steal, etc., etc., etc. That all happens when you forget that everything, you're always on stage. And not only on stage, the spotlight is on you, and you have no idea when the casting call is. You have no idea. It could be 10, 15 years down the line. And that's something that I've carried my whole life. Everything counts.
Seems like there's also value in being a good person. Mm-hmm. Just value in kindness is something that's thrown around today that, oh, you can't be kind or you can't be good to other people because you could be stepped on or you won't be respected or whatnot. So it seems like that lesson also kind of stuck with you to always be kind and
the
be
best, smartest people I've ever met always play 10, 20, 30-year games. And what's so odd and weird to me is, you know, especially when I was younger, even now, the younger we are, the less time we think we have. It's like you're in a rush to be successful. And it takes years to build anything, decades. And to not operate like that is not only a massive risk, but it's a guaranteed slap in the face along the way. And when you play long-term games with long-term people, you get long-term results.
That's been something I struggled with, trying to build the podcast and like seeing the minimal growth and seeing like there's still growth there, but it's not so minimal. It's so easy nowadays to just watch somebody's podcast and be like, damn, they have so much better things than I do, or their audience is bigger. And it's very hard to, you obviously know you have to play the long game, but it's incredibly hard to really understand that and live that every day. So that's been something I've also kind of been dealing with or trying to face. But I think from what it seems is that as you get older, you start to understand that everything will take time. Like Rome wasn't built in a day, and you got to be able to build the brick by brick kind of infrastructure to inevitably create the thing that you want to do. So that's just been something I've been trying to implement into my life, and I hope to kind of understand that someday. But just hearing that, it definitely gives me affirmation to just continue to believe and continue to put work into what you're doing. There's something that I want you to look at. I don't know when was the last time you watched this video, but there was a video that I saw because my mom is very important to me, and from seeing you and seeing this video, I felt like I knew you without kind of knowing you.
I know the video you're going to show, so I
Yeah.
get my mom in the car.
It is.
Yeah.
I don't know when was the last time you looked at it. You can,
Oh, all the time. Yeah.
What is that? What is that video?
Yeah, I mean, I watched my mom lose it all, and she built something in a few short years, and I watched her lose it all, pretty much in a day.
Yeah.
In one day. And my mom was the breadwinner of the family at the time, so she lost it all, and not just money. She lost her reputation. She lost everything she built, and wrongfully so. She didn't do anything, so it was just kind of like the worst bounce of all time. Usually you do, like the fuck around find out chart. Like, she did not fuck around. She still found out.
Yeah.
And as a 13, 14-year-old kid, you want to like be there for her. You want to like solve the problem, but I couldn't solve it at 13, 14, and I made a promise at 13, 14. I had no idea how. And over time, I did whatever I could, and she had unwavering belief in the idea that I could do it. And on her 60th birthday, I surprised her. They took the car from the driveway, and she cried for like, oh my God, I don't even know, days, weeks. And she spoke about it for so long. And, I got to surprise her with it on her 60th birthday. And in the video, you can see like when she, I guess, spoke to the occasion, she remembered what I said, which is crazy. Almost 12 years later, she's like, I remember he said, and it was like a very like quick, like she was crying on the steps of the house. I came up and I said like, I'll buy this for you. I'll get this back for you. She's like, yeah, sure. I know you will. And it was over. And like 12 years later, she remembered that I said it. So it was a very meaningful moment. And, it's one of those things, back to what I said earlier. One of my things was to be able to take care of my family. And, yeah, what better way than be able to do it at 26 years old, so very special moment for sure.
What did her belief mean to you? Like when you have, everything's going wrong, or you're starting to see a decline in business, and you just need that one person to believe in you. What did her belief in you mean to you?
I think at certain times you believe that your parents believe in you, and then certain times you don't. It wasn't like it was unwavering, but my parents there was never an excuse for why something wouldn't happen. I would say something ridiculous. Like, I'm going to go and build this. They'd be like, all right, so go build it. And I'm going to go climb Everest. Okay, so go climb Everest. Like, why are you acting like it's so hard? Start training, do the process, and then climb it. I'm going to run a marathon in 2 weeks. I've never trained before. Great. Like, make sure you do A, B, C, and D. Like, go do it. Yeah. It was never like, oh, you can't do that. Oh, that's too hard. Maybe try something else. It was like, okay, so go do it. I'm going to sell my business. Okay, so then sell it. That's going to be awesome. Like, it's just like, it was always possible. And I thought that was normal. And I realized that for a lot of people, that's not the case, unfortunately some people around you start to doubt you, and that's why your environment, that's why it's important to craft where you spend your time.
Yeah. Seems like she gave that security in whatever you wanted to do. She was always
Definitely, brother. Yeah. I mean, looking back, very fortunate, and still am fortunate. But at the time, you just think that's normal.
Yeah.
You know,
Interesting. What
which could go in like two.
yeah. So I guess the last question
Yeah.
that I wanted to be able to ask you was, what did 18-year-old Aaron, what was that? What did that person need to hear? Like, if you could go back and you can sit across from that version of self.
Yeah, I think the one thing I'd say, and I've probably asked this question 100 times, is, and I would say this to everyone, and no matter what anyone is going through, this too shall pass, and everything will be okay. No matter if you're in a good time, unfortunately this will pass, and if you're in a bad time, it will also pass. Time is undefeated. You'll never beat time. And the only way to beat time, or to attempt to beat time, is to do things, to do stuff, try stuff, fail, avoid catastrophe, take maximum risk, live the life. And what does that mean? It means live, do shit, try things, step into the unknown, jump out of the plane, take maximum risk, avoid catastrophe, and you'll give your best opportunity to do stuff and build yourself a resume. So when you're 60, 25, 30, doesn't matter what age, you can be proud of how far you've come and understand how far you have yet to go. The game is only over when you're dead. Otherwise, keep doing shit, and it will pass.
Yeah. Aaron, I want to thank you. I know you got to run, but thank you for coming on. Where can the people find you?
Instagram, Aaron.Spivak, Spivak. LinkedIn, I post a lot. Also, Aaron Spivak with the blue face. I have a newsletter which I pour my thoughts into every week. All the links are there. I just started posting on YouTube as Aaron Spivak, as well as just the behind the scenes of building business. So I do my best to put as much content out there. So if you like this, comment, tell me you came from the video, and I try to respond pretty much everyone.
Aaron, thank you.